So he's got his own separate business, but I filmed all his content and we were so integrated and he needs me all the time that we just said, screw it, let's get an office together. Let's make it happen. At the time, it was like during COVID. So I realized anyway, I'm like, I'm sick and tired from working from home. I can't do it because I was isolated. I live on a farm too, which doesn't help. So you really don't see anybody, right? It's not like you can go on a walk and even see random passerbyers, right? So I really wanted an office space. We were looking around forever, and we finally, like, when we saw it, it was beautiful. We're like, this is incredible. Yeah. But we didn't even think we could get it. We're like, there's no way. Yeah. So I didn't even think about it. But Chase called me the next day. He's like, we're moving in, baby. I'm like, what do you mean? And it was a good moment because we actually ended up getting the spot. And we got like 4 times the amount of space for the same cost as what we were looking at. Way smaller areas. So we're like, we could both grow in here, build our teams, and ended up working out.
Such a nice space too.
It's so, I hate new buildings because they're boxes. It's just square boxes. Whereas like I think it's even a heritage home actually. I saw a plaque the other day on the wall.
Really? Okay.
So it's like levels to it, right? You got like a lobby downstairs, you go upstairs, you got a loft. It's interesting. Arches in the windows.
Yeah. Cool. So, I guess like, how did you start working with Chase first of all?
Before you go in, do you want to introduce yourself actually? Yo!
Nerds.
Okay, let's start there.
Let's start there.
Chase is gonna love this. Just all the plugs.
Oh yeah.
Paul Marynowski. Where did I don't even know where to start, man. Like, started a landscaping business back in high school. So I've always had like an entrepreneurial spirit. Even like when I was a kid, this is a funny story actually. Even when I was a kid, I would sell my own toys at garage sales just so I could get my money back. And I swear, I'm thinking about it now, and I'm like, I swear my parents would have been pissed because they're like, why is my kid selling all the gifts I just gave him? But I'm like, I just want money. So like, that's kind of where it started. And eventually I couldn't sell any more toys. So I started a toy cleaning business, and I'd go door to door and I'd like knock on their door and be like, hey, do your kids have any like messed up toys that need to get washed up or whatever? And I remember one neighbor gave me a doll that their daughter like drew all over with permanent marker. Ooh. Clearly you can't fix that, but they gave it to me and I told them I'd fix it. So I take it home and I'm like, Mom, Dad, what do I do with this? And they're like, why? We're obviously not going to be able to do it. So I think my parents ended up like, just because they're like, didn't want to bother the neighbor, they just ended up buying a new toy and I ended up taking it to the neighbor. And I was like, here you go, we fixed it.
So you look like a legend to the neighbors.
They just appreciate like, oh, the kid's just trying to make money.
Yeah.
And eventually me and the neighbor across the street, we came up with a scheme where we'd make paintings and sell them. Like 25 cents a pop. But like for us, that was great. Lemonade stands, all that. So it's like, it was always in my spirit. So when I was in grade 9, I ended up doing like a lawn care business. It was easy, going door to door with a lawnmower, literally just walking it over. And that actually grew enough to hire, where my dad became a partner in the business and he took it over. So at that time, it was a good fallback job. So I always knew I kind of had that in the back pocket. So I'd like venture off into other sales and marketing jobs. But I get sick of working for someone else. So I'd be like, hey, Dad, I'm coming back. And then we'd run that business together.
Yeah.
And eventually, during COVID, I started a marketing position at start.ca, which is like a pretty big internet company in London. And I got laid off because of COVID. So I was sitting at home, bored as hell, and I bought a drone. And I'm like, this is fun. How can I make money with it? And I decided to buy a video camera, or a camera in general, and then started doing photography and video work and started getting clients and decided that's my passion. Even though as a DJ, I was surrounded by cameras all the time, not even once did I think about picking up a camera, which is weird.
Yeah.
Never did I. Even my wife, she has a camera at home, like a nice camera. And I never had any interest in touching it. But as soon as I like used it, I was hooked.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's another big thing I missed, I guess, is I've been DJing for 12 years.
That's one of the biggest
12
ones.
years.
Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. That, again, another side hustle, I guess.
Yeah. But where does this like entrepreneurship come from? Like, is there someone in your family that's like did it before? Or?
Well, all my family's in Poland. My parents and my brother are the only ones in Canada. And my dad actually ran away from Poland, kind of evaded the country because my mom was pregnant with me, I believe. Yeah, with me. And he was going to be forced to go into the army. So they had to literally like cross the border into Greece, lived there for a year or two, and then eventually found a sponsor in Canada and came here. But no one else came. So it's just us. Yeah. Everyone else is in Poland.
Yeah.
And when they came here, I guess they're kind of like trying to be smart with their money and trying to find ways to grow a family here, right? Like, what do we do, right? So
brand new country, brand new environment.
Yeah, everything. Like, even for us, if you think about it, like we don't really have anyone else to fall back on. So I guess the hustle kind of came from that, is like trying to figure it out. My parents have always been supportive of like trying new things. They've never any idea I've had, like even growing up, like with this selling paintings on the street. It was probably embarrassing as hell for them, right? But they're like, just do it. It's probably a good lesson, right? So growing up, they've always supported me in trying all these things. Even like I did karate, ballet, which you might not know.
Okay.
Have you talked about that ever before?
On video camera, probably not. A lot of people know it.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole office knows it. All my friends know it. But like, I went to the National Ballet School of Canada.
No way, really?
Yeah, dog.
Is that serious?
So you weren't just doing ballet, like you were serious?
No, I went. Yeah, that was like a full time. That was in grade 8.
How did you end up like studying ballet?
So my mom, she wanted to be a dancer for sure, because she forced my brother and me into dance as a kid.
Yeah.
But my dad put us into karate. So there was like, we did a lot of like extracurriculars, I guess. But my brother and I both grew up doing dance and karate from like the age of, I don't know, since I can remember, really.
Yeah.
Right? So it was like, I was at a local dance studio, Dance Steps, and we did like jazz, ballet, hip hop, like lyrical, like everything. Yeah. And there were auditions for the National Ballet School there. So I auditioned. They accepted me. I went. And I was like, dude, that was hardcore though. Yeah. Like out of any life lessons, as weird as it may be or funny, right? Like people always made fun of me for sure in school, completely. Like I probably lost all my friends because I went in grade 8. So I was there for a year. And when I came back in grade 9, completely new friend group because everybody knew I went to ballet school and it was like spreading through the school. So I was like, I don't care. Fuck you. I could kick your ass too because I did karate.
I was going to say, that's a lethal combo because like, you can fucking fight, but you're flexible. And
nobody bullied me.
Yeah.
I knew they were looking down on me because I lost all my friends basically. And like, I was friends with them still, but I wasn't as close, right? Like I kind of like mingled with everyone. So I wasn't embarrassed, but I in grade 9, I came back and I dressed up as a ballerina for Halloween at my house school because I was like, I don't care. Make fun of me.
Fuck you guys.
Make fun of me. I'll kick your ass because they knew I did karate, so they didn't want to like.
They didn't want to catch a smoke.
Like the beast.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Though.
That's a bit about my background. So ballet school, dude, that was intense though because it was like Monday to Saturday. You wake up, go to school. Go to dance class, go to school, go to dance class, do homework, sleep, repeat.
Yeah.
6 days a week for a year. Grade 8, I was so homesick. I was living on my own at the school's residence in grade 8, like on my own. So it was fun. I don't regret it. Taught me like how to live on my own basically as a kid, right? So I came back and took a lot from it, I guess.
Yeah. And then when does the DJ start to like come up, like the DJ Apollo?
Okay, so that's
Or just a DJ even too. Like
DJ in general.
And then we can get to it.
That's a good story too.
Yeah.
So after high school, I didn't want to go to university right away. I wanted to go back to Poland, visit some family, enjoy that scene a little bit. So I have my mom's side and my dad's side, and they live in different cities. Poland's a rather small country, so you could travel between everything, and I visited all of them. But my cousin there actually owns a modeling agency, and they manage Miss Polonia, like Miss Poland.
Really?
Yeah, like a huge, basically, right? They go to Miss World and Miss University with them and everything. It's pretty interesting. But this is when he first started, and he was running the auditions for Miss Poland, and I was helping with whatever I could at the time, right? Like I was trying to work, and they put me in charge of the music during the auditions. So the girls were kind of like walking down, and I had to push play on the music, make sure the next song plays. But behind the DJ booth were CDJs, DJ equipment. And that was my first time ever laying eyes on DJ gear. And I was like, what the hell is this? I had no idea what I was doing.
And how old are you? Sorry to interrupt.
That was grade 3. So I was like, what, 17?
Yeah, so it's the young buck. Still.
17, turning 18.
Yeah.
And 18, I would say. So, because I was able to drink. And
typical Polish.
Yeah. It's young there. So I messed around with the CD, and the auditions would take, it was like a 3-day process or something. So the first day I saw it, just push play. But I was like, okay, I got to figure out this equipment. I'm moving faders and messing around with it. I'm like, this is really fun. And I went home that night and immediately searched like DJ equipment, how to use it. And I realized you need headphones. So I went to the store, bought headphones for the next day so I could actually start messing around with the transitions and whatnot. And I literally got hooked from the start. I was like, I need this to be my life. And whenever we would go to parties in Poland, I'd bring up a laptop, have 2 YouTube pages going at the same time, and I'd literally crossfade the volume, like turn it up on one, turn it down on the other. So I would DJ with YouTube tabs.
Wow,
and I'd be at the party, just at the computer, just like doing whatever. Went to the music store. This is like when CDs were a thing. Buy a bunch of different like house music CDs and stuff. And when I came back home, I was there for about like 6 months. And when I came back, I told my parents, I'm like, I'm going to be a DJ. And they're like, okay.
Wow.
As long as you pay for equipment, do whatever the hell you want, right? So spent all my savings on some gear, speakers, and obviously, again, at the time, you had to buy CDs and stuff. So downloaded some music, but again, you had to burn it onto a CD. So I had like a whole collection, a folder organized, which was kind of crazy to think about because everything's on a USB now. Right?
Yeah,
like so easy.
Yeah.
You have programs and software to analyze everything and see it. Back then, you couldn't even see the waveform of the song. You saw the length. You saw the start time and the end time. So, and YouTube wasn't really a thing at the time either. Anyway, like a lot of tutorials weren't up there. So I bought DJing for Dummies. Best book I've ever bought. It taught me everything. Like it literally took you through different techniques to practice so you can like beat match and do all these different things like in such an easy way where I picked it up so quick. It made sense. So screw all these YouTube videos. I feel like YouTube is like, you can go down a deep hole where people teach you a lot of wrong habits. Yeah. Whereas like this book, everything in that book, I still use to this day.
Wow.
And like I often offered DJ lessons too to some people, and all the things I learned from that book, I teach those kids too. So it's like clutch.
Yeah.
So if anyone's looking to DJ, DJing for Dummies.
I feel like those guys make every book like just real estate for dummies, this for dummies. Like
they just dumb it down.
They fucking just do it.
It's great.
It's amazing, bro.
They have it down to like a pass.
Literally.
And if you're a dumbass, you can learn.
Yeah.
That's the point.
And I love how they say for dummies. Like you're a dummy right now.
And then you're not after you read that book.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the way I got into DJing at the time, I was just like, I was just turning 19. So any friend who was having a party, or if I even heard of a party, I tried to find their contact and be like, hey, you want to DJ? I'll come DJ for free. Just like, let me DJ.
Yeah.
So I started getting like experiences playing at house parties. And eventually when I was going to Western, there were parties everywhere, right? So I just show up. Even prior or during that same time, actually, do you remember Fleming Drive and how lit that was?
100%.
Oh, yeah.
By Fanshawe College?
Yeah,
before
Project X.
Yeah. It's crazy that we had that.
That's when everything ended. After that, it was like my cousins in Poland heard about that.
Yeah. Fuck.
So before that, that's like the COVID of house parties. I feel like.
Literally.
But Fleming was amazing because I remember me and my friends would literally just drive down the street. I'd have all my DJ gear packed in the car. I'd find a house that looks like it's having a party, walk in, be like, you guys want to DJ? Just give me like $50 for gas and a few drinks and I'll DJ the rest of your night. And I'd set up my gear. They were like, let me see your equipment. I'm like, I open the trunk, just massive speakers, subwoofers, DJ gear. They're like, hell yeah. I never got a no. So I'd set up at these parties. I'd even have lights and everything. And I just like lay out my business cards. And I would just like be like, follow me. Yeah. Eventually started building up somewhat of a following on social media. Eventually met a promoter at Frog. And that's where I had like my first official gig. And I remember playing for maybe like 40 people in the back room at Frog. And I felt like I was playing at a 10,000 person music festival. I was like, I'm on top of the world.
Yeah.
But like at that time, I'm like, I made it. This is like what I need to be doing.
Is that still one of your greatest moments? Like thinking
that, it's like, engraved in my
everything
mind.
Like you've done, because you've done a lot. Well, is that one of like bigger than all of those still or no?
There's a few moments where like you have that moment and you really have to take it in, just like enjoy it, because time, especially when you're DJing, goes by so fast. Sometimes you just look up. A lot of guys, they're just like so into the music, looking at their decks. But sometimes like I purposely make myself look up, look at the crowd, enjoy this. Because I never know when it's going to happen again, right? Yeah. So you got to take those little moments in. And there's a few of them where I look back and I'm like, that is a core memory locked forever.
Yeah.
But playing at Frog for those 40 people was like, it felt like some of the biggest gigs I've had recently, right? So
what was it about DJing that gave you like that excitement and what made you like keep on hustling?
Good question. I would say like, dude, there's no other activity I've done in my life that's brought me such a high. And pun intended, kind of like a lot of DJs and the industry, there's a lot of drugs involved, right? And I knew that going into it, and I made it a core responsibility to make sure I didn't get dragged down into that deep, dark world where people just get dragged into it, playing music for the wrong reasons, getting messed up. Like you hear about all these celebrities. It's the same thing. As soon as you're like all access pass to the club, do whatever the hell you want, back room, green room, free drinks. It's like, what the hell's stopping you, right? So I made sure to put some kind of reservations in my mind to be like, don't go there, do it. Because like when you first played at a house party for a few people, it was a great time. Remember that and just keep that as your mission. Make it bigger, grow it, play the music, enjoy it. But like making people move and playing music that or a remix or a song that people haven't heard before. And they're just like, this is amazing. And then like you see people dancing is a great feeling. Can't explain it until you do it. And I've seen so many friends that are even like just behind the DJ booth, right? They're hanging out with me and they see and they feel the energy and they're like, I want to do this too. It's like, you can't explain it.
And at that moment, like, did you see like a gap in the DJing business? Because like, I remember going to parties like, back in the day, and the worst thing ever is when someone's like iPhone disconnects from the Bluetooth and the music stops.
Dude, there was no Bluetooth at the time. What are you talking about?
Yeah, no, but what
this
I mean,
was 12 years ago.
Yeah,
no one had Bluetooth. I'm talking about playing off CDs.
Dude. Yeah. So you saw that niche, like you knew there was an opportunity.
I didn't even know. I just did it because I was
passion.
like, screw it. Yeah. It was the same thing like all my other landscaping or lawn man. I just went door to door. This is what I did.
Yeah.
Tell people what you could do, offer it for a good price, grow your business, and eventually charge more, right? Like get your name out there so people know, and then do it because you're passionate. I never did it for the money either. Like if you want to DJ because you want to make money, you will go fucking broke real easy. Or crazy, one or the other. And I feel like the passion for the music is what drove me, because any other person who would try to go into this business will go insane and will quit. I've seen so many DJs try DJing and they're like, too much drama, bye.
Yeah.
Or like, this is too difficult. Why am I like, I would literally have to eventually, when even in the club, like once I got into the clubs, sure, I got my foot in the door, but now you got to go to after parties, hang out with people, make connections, meet more people until you meet the right people to be able to get the gigs you want and become friends with them. Because it's all like a very close group of people. Right?
Yeah, it's tight knit.
It's
So
very tight.
what kept you grounded then? Because like you knew what you were getting yourself into. So like what kept you
That
like level-headed?
When I was DJing in Poland, even though I was messing around, I didn't have no one had any expectations from me. I was just playing music for the models to walk down the runway. But I was having my own moment in the back. I'm like, yes! I had my headphones on after the first day and I was like, this is incredible. Like I get to play with music and make these changes and have fun. Yeah. And I just remembered that and I'm like, that's why I'm doing it. Like screw all this other bullshit. So there's a lot of drama. It's like reliving high school all over again, but even worse. You have to make connections with people and be friendly and go out late at night. And it's just a lot. And there's a lot of people that will screw you over. A lot.
Yeah.
And you have to understand that's part of it. And I always explain this to people too who are getting into it. I'm like, don't expect the world. It's not like a corporate job where if you do a good job, you'll get promoted. That's not how it works. You gotta you're gonna get screwed. You're gonna have to find ways to make it over those humps, I guess, and persevere for the bigger goal. Yeah. And it's not like you're club DJs specifically, you get paid almost nothing. But at the time, going to Western, you're going out anyway. So I'd much rather get paid a little bit, get free drinks, and be out at the bars where everybody's going to be for free and make a little bit of money because it's worth it, right? If you're 30 and you're trying to get in the DJ business, good luck. You're not going to enjoy yourself. This is something you got to start at a young age, I feel, unless you're like producing music and you're putting your music out there for, right? DJing, the only way you're going to make it, take it with a grain of salt because there's always a different approach you could take to certain things, right? Yeah. However, DJing, you only get big if you make music and you get signed to a record label for your music. And then your way of performing it is DJing, right? Kind of like Taylor Swift makes music. Everybody knows her music and she throws concerts where she sings live, right? Yeah. Same thing for a DJ. You can DJ and there's also like, you could be a good scratch DJ and doing live transitions and people are like, wow, that's incredible. And there's like, I don't even remember what the competition is called, but there's like a world competition for scratch DJs, vinyl records. Yeah. And they're famous DJs, but that's also such a small niche that you're better off going to make your own music and get famous that way because you have way more opportunity.
Yeah. Do you think it's very similar to comedy almost in a way?
Where you're just 100%.
Where you're just in the slums, like you're just kind of those rooms where nobody wants to. Like,
exactly.
There's one person, maybe two people there.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't matter till you kind of break the seal almost in a way.
You got to keep pushing.
It also reminds me of like sports too. Like there's a lot of politics involved,
for sure.
Right?
Exactly.
It's like literally like one of those.
Oh, politics. Don't even get me started. Yeah. Same thing.
Yeah. Paul and politics.
We don't get along very well. But it's I love it and I hate it. And I feel like I was this close to actually being able to do something with it. But again, I knew the game I was in where I didn't know for sure because it's not like like a corporate job where you have
promotion or like
or salary, like
well, I'm blanking right now. When it's safe, when you're safe.
Yeah.
Security. Yeah.
You don't have security. Exactly. You don't have the job security, right? Yeah. So it's always a risk. And that's also why I loved it because you're living in the moment. Because even to this day, I don't nearly play as much now as I have before. But when I get a gig, I'm like a kid again. Yeah. Even my wife is like, holy crap. Like, what are you good? I'm like, I'm so excited. Yeah. Because like, I know I'm going to be able to experience that feeling again. but it might be my last time.
Mhm.
It hasn't been yet. I've been playing, but like I always treat it like it's going to be the last. So I wasn't surprised when I like, you know, I did get screwed eventually and I slowed down a little bit, but I do it now, not for the goal of making it, but just to get that out of my system.
Yeah.
Because I'm always craving it.
Yeah.
So I'm always like, I got to play soon. Let's talk to some people,
Yeah.
get a gig in here or there. But I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Because I knew like, you know, I did eventually move to Toronto for this, got signed to a couple management companies there. I was working for Inc., which owns like Rebel and Union. It's not you. Toy Box. It's not even Toy Box anymore. They keep flipping.
Everything
What is it called now?
I forget.
Toy Box.
Don't even know, to be honest with you.
So-
Even to a lot of the big names swap. Like, remember when government was around? That was like the haven.
Dude,
Completely gone now.
Union, though, is the same owners, same club.
Yeah.
They just rebrand it.
They always
Because
have
there's
to
new
rebrand.
kids coming out, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a younger crowd that goes to these types of places. So they got to make it look new.
Yeah.
Put a new face on it, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah. The cool spot now.
yeah. But Inc., they own like crazy amounts of clubs in Toronto. They own
Yeah.
probably like 10.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of playing around between all those clubs in Toronto, a few others, and it was good. And I was making a lot of connections opening for DJs, headliners that were like international DJs. And the goal was to, while I was making my own music, before I opened, I'd obviously have some time to like be like, hey, how's it going? Like, nice to meet you. And like pass a USB and give them some music. And if one of them got back to me being like, hey, the song's dope, I want to sign you. Because most of these DJs, there's like, every DJ has a record label, basically. There's a massive record labels like Sony, Universal, Spinning Records, like all these guys. And they sign DJs. And these DJs themselves have smaller record labels that have smaller DJs under them. So it's like this whole pyramid of like the top dogs and the little ones. And as soon as you get into one, you could work your way to the next, right? Because you're that much closer. So the goal was to eventually get signed on a whatever record label and eventually get signed to someone.
Was there one that you wanted? Like specifically that, like, if you could say it, like.
Honestly, at the time, I didn't know that. I was so new. I loved playing house music, EDM, future house, progressive house, kind of a mix in between. And eventually I dabbled more into like deep house. And that's what I wanted to produce. So like I didn't have a record label in mind, dude. I wasn't picky.
Yeah.
I wanted something.
Yeah.
Just something. Throw me a bone here.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So like whoever I could get would have been amazing. I got signed to a couple record labels in Europe. And this guy was a beauty. He would always support me. Like he would like take my music, help me out with it, give me feedback. I'd fix it. He'd sign it, put it on Spotify and everywhere, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So I have some music on Spotify. But again, the amount of money you make off Spotify isn't a big deal. You need a record label that has connections to promotional companies like Live Nation or something that actually throws events so they can put you on shows, bigger shows, right? And Inc. Entertainment actually, like, one of the big things is they work with Live Nation, like hand in hand. So they throw Digital Dreams. Is it Digital Dreams? It's called Dreams
it's
now.
Bud Light. No, it's Bud Light Dreams. Or
Bud Light
something.
Dreams.
Yeah,
Dude,
bro,
everything's
how
changing.
crazy is that?
We're aging ourselves here. Or
Wow.
I'm aging myself. But Veld, for instance, right? So these record labels work with Live Nation, and Inc. is also a very big part of these events. So when I was working with Inc., the hope was to eventually become like Manzone and Strong, kind of like a resident for this company to be able to open for DJs for these big festivals, right? That was kind of the next step. And eventually I couldn't handle Toronto anymore, to be honest. I was there for 2 years.
What broke you there?
Living in a box the size of this fucking room, and it cost you $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
And you had to pay for parking extra, and I had a dog, and you can't even walk the dog anywhere. And it was just, I would literally be, my apartment, I would be watching TV while eating dinner, and I'd get a noise complaint. I'd literally invite the security guard. I'm like, please come into my apartment. Like, I'm eating dinner, dog.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want from me? Like, leave me alone. So I just lack of privacy. I live on a farm now. I said, screw that. I'm getting out of here. I'm living in the middle of nowhere, which also, again, has its positives. But like during COVID, you see no one. So it's like lonely, right? Which is kind of the reason why I'm happy I'm in an office now, surrounded by people. So it's
it
like
seems like
balance.
DJing now is like a kind of an outlet, right? Where before it was something you were striving for. Like
It was.
Did it hurt to let go of that?
Oh, yeah. Probably one of the hardest things I let go of, to be honest.
Yeah.
Have you fully let go of it, do you think? Or
My wife would just say no. She would say, nah, you're still in it. But like, it's because I put everything into something I do. So like I played at Vice recently for New Year's, and I don't just want to take a gig and be like, oh, I'm the DJ, I don't have to do anything. I'm going to invite my friends. I'm going to try my hardest to promote the event. So it's a good party. I want my friends there too, right? Yeah. I want to have a good time. I want to help the club so they come back to me or whatnot. So I'll put that extra effort into helping sell tickets and promote it and do all this. So I end up getting consumed a little bit by that. And my wife would be like, why are you putting so much effort into this? We have so much other stuff on our minds right now, right? So it's because I just put 100% in everything. So am I in it? Today, probably not. But if you give me a gig tomorrow, it might be a different story.
Yeah.
So
we better go to the next gig.
Oh, 100.
Yeah, we have to. We have to.
I
want to see Paul rip it.
I don't even bring it up because he'll start talking about like, you remember the last one?
We did, yeah. I just played a show at Music Hall. We did. My friend had his birthday party, and Music Hall didn't have anything booked for that Saturday. So we're like, let's invite our friends and throw a party.
It was a throwback.
It was a throwback. Yeah, it was me, Matteo Pepe, Matt Royal, and Zana Kingsman. Used to be called Kingsman.
Old school.
And it was a good time. And we were actually scared about ticket sales because we were telling everyone. We told everyone about it. I even told you about it.
That's why I didn't want
You didn't go. I'm offended.
This is why I said to him,
He's like, shut up, don't bring it up.
Shut up, because I'm about to get smoked on. Go on. I need this on camera.
You missed out. Yeah. That's okay.
No, of course, man. It's like I a testament to like a lot of our friendship was like, that's how it started. Like we were talking about it a little earlier, like behind the scenes, like we're like, how the hell did we meet? And we can't pinpoint it. There's so many.
You were just there.
Yeah, and then there's so many,
always there.
Yeah, always there, and like even too, it's like there's so many things that we bonded on and like talked about it. And it's like, oh yeah, you remember this and this and this, and like I'll say I'm very sorry I wasn't there. I'll be there for the next one.
I'll hold you up on that.
Yeah, and like at least I could say like I remember like Gatsby's days. Like that will be the epitome of us. Like or
Gatsby, dude.
That was partying for me. So like even too when he says about like setting stuff up. So this is a little.
Was that back when Nick Spino was when?
Yeah, this is when Spino was running the show. Like that's.
Dude, I'm renting my office right now from Nick Spino.
Oh really? Yeah.
All interconnected, right? Like that's why like even though I was DJing and it didn't go anywhere, it was such a great community and network of people you met from it. It was part of the journey, right? I wouldn't be where I am without it. Yeah. So was it unsuccessful? Probably not, because I rely so heavily on the people I met from it, right?
Yeah.
So
it depends on like the time frame you look at. Like at that short time frame, maybe it was, but like when you look long, like in the long run, it's like no, like that actually like made me the like a part of the community, right? I'm a networker now. Yeah. So how did you transition to like videography and like photos?
Before we get there.
Yeah.
Gatsby. We weren't done.
I was gonna say, 'cause, like, I gotta give him I gotta give him his props, or do you like I'll go first. So like I have my stories. Like I think I've misspoken to before, but like Paul, this is the face of the person when I talk. Like I'd be sitting in line, right? Like this line is huge. Probably like 150. Nah, not even like 200-300. Let's not sell short.
That line went all the way to Oxford.
Bro, yeah, it was bad. Double line too. There's bouncers in between the lines because like those kids are rowdy.
Yeah.
And I'd call Paul and I'd be like, yo, Paul, I'm outside. And this guy would be DJing. Like literally DJing. Sprint out the door, kick the door down and be like, those two, me and my boy Carl, those two in now. The bouncers would look at this guy like he's a crazy guy, but like, yo, that's the DJ. You can't say anything. Boom, I'm in. And everything's like, one, thank you so much. Because like my party experiences were fucking amazing. The cherry on top. So like obviously Paul needs some downtime, whatever he's got to do. This guy would have it all set up and he would just be like, listen, buddy, you here, don't fucking touch anything. I got it ready for you. All you have to do is click one button and just do that. And I was like, okay. I'm a little drunk too, so like this is a big task that this guy's asking me. There's a bunch of people in front of me. If I fuck up, this guy's gonna rip my head off, and you're never getting in the club again.
Yeah.
And I would just literally just kind of have my own DJ set there, like flat, like just pumping up everybody and everything.
Yeah.
And like I appreciate that.
Dude, when you go to the what else was I supposed to do? If I have to go to the washroom, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah,
It's like, homie, you're on here.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
You got this.
and it was amazing, man. Like, yeah, I don't know. I appreciate that, but do tell your Gatsby stories, because
Yeah.
Well, it's where I met my wife.
Oh,
that's How was that?
this is like with the red room days. Those when the room was red.
I met her probably I met her in high school at a wedding, but I was really drunk.
Mhm.
And her parents weren't impressed, and then like we talked and we realized like we didn't have many friends in common, so we're like we kind of stopped talking.
Yeah.
But like fast forward Gatsby days, we haven't talked since high school, but we knew of each other because we followed each other on Facebook.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And she saw me in line walking, like I was walking like a boss right through the line going into work. She's like, Paul, and I was like, hey, and I had no clue who she was. Okay. And I was like, you want to come in? Because she was gorgeous. I was like, let's go, baby. You're coming in with me.
Yeah.
She's like, no, I'm right at the front. I'll see you inside. So I went to go DJ, and eventually she actually did come up. She's like, hey, Paul, I'm like, Joanna, do you remember me? I'm like, when I just like got thrown back into the past. I was like, you're Joanna? Holy crap, from the wedding and everything. And then we connected. And she actually lived in Alberta at the time. And she was only in London for the next week and a half.
Mm.
In that week and a half, I convinced her to grab her shit and move back to London and stay with me.
No fucking
How?
way.
Wait,
How?
whoa,
Yeah,
whoa.
what?
In a week and a half. We literally drove to Alberta together. We did a road trip. It was, dude, this is a podcast in itself. I got pulled over at the border, searched, questioned for 3 hours. We went to, we drove through the States. In the States, we went to the middle of nowhere. There was a random guy in an RV who was running the campground and almost us.
Holy fuck.
Joanna broke her arm. We both got strep throat and a whole bunch of other stuff, but we got our stuff, came back. It was the best trip ever. And then I married her 10 years later.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of questions.
First, what compelled you? Like,
I don't know,
it's like,
dude, I cannot explain it. I saw her and I said, I need her.
Yeah.
I can't explain it. Even
Yeah.
she's like, why did you want me so bad? And I'm like, I just felt it.
Yeah.
Like I often, when I feel something's right, I do it. Like this guy, we're here tonight. It's a good time. Like whenever I feel there's an opportunity and I see it and I feel it, I know it's right and I have to do it.
Yeah.
I can't explain it, but it's like, if you get excited about something and you don't do anything about it, you're losing an opportunity. And I'm like, I might as well try. If I fail, who cares?
Yeah. But that's like
You tried at least.
That's a
You'll
next
learn.
level though. Like to tell it, yo, come
Dude,
to London. Like
I was in love.
Yeah.
I was in love. I
Wow.
can't explain. I saw her face and I'm like, yep.
That's me.
I made the decision the second she yelled my name, and I saw her inside. And I'm like, I'm convincing her to leave. She told me, she's like, by the way, I'm leaving in a week and a half back to Alberta. I'm like, the fuck you are.
yeah.
And I made it my mission to fucking sweep her off her feet.
And now that she's your wife.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Took me 10
bro.
years to propose.
That
but-
goes to show, like, yo, like, just fucking shoot your shot.
Follow
Like,
your
stop
heart,
Being,
yeah.
Stop being
Yeah,
a little
dude.
cat.
yeah, follow your heart.
Yeah.
If your heart says something, fucking
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what the funny? Okay, we didn't even get to the good part of Gatsby. So that story aside,
Yeah.
my brother, he looks like my twin.
Yeah, he
basically.
does.
A lot of people, like, to this day, I'll be at the grocery store and people are gonna be like, "Hey, Mike, how's it going?" And I'm like, "Hey," and I'm so sick of it. I'll just pretend to be him, just to say hi and move on.
Yeah.
But we look alike. He's 7 years older than me, but we look the same. So when I started dating Joanna, and my brother at the time had a girlfriend as well, the bouncers thought we were the same person. So I would walk in right at 10 p.m. to play my set at Gatsby. And then my brother would come at like 11 midnight when the party starts with his girlfriend. And he would walk right through the front door because they thought I was him.
Yeah.
But for the longest time, I thought the bouncers just knew he was my brother, so they were being nice.
Yeah.
And eventually, the bouncer comes up to me at the end of the night. He's like, Paul, how do you do it? How do you every single weekend handle 2 different bitches without them knowing that you're wheeling both of them at the same time? I'm like, 2 girls at the same, what do you? Oh, you think Mike is me?
That's so funny.
And for the longest time, he just thought,
Yeah. It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
That's
he thought
top
we
tier.
were the same
So
person.
the bouncers are probably like, yo, this guy's so gangster.
Yeah.
How does he do it?
What is slime?
Yeah.
That's fucking hilarious. But yeah, I guess like back to like my question is like, how did you pivot from like that life to like now videography, photography?
Which is interesting because I asked myself the same question. Like
yeah.
in that world, in the club industry, music festivals and everything, it's literally covered with photographer. I know so many photographers and videographers that crushed it. And not once was I ever inspired to be like, I need to do that too.
Yeah.
Probably because I was so preoccupied with the DJing stuff at the time. And it probably wasn't until that kind of died off and I was losing faith in the DJ world where I'm like, I'm probably not going to make this my job, so I should veer off and find something else. And sales and marketing, as fun as it is, it's still a corporate job. So I was trying to find something creative to do.
Mm-hmm.
And when COVID happened, I told you, I bought a drone. I was bored as hell. And I said, I got to make money with this because that's just kind of in my spirit. So I realized, wow, this is actually another creative field, kind of like DJing, where you can actually work and be respected for it, which is a realization. In the DJ world, you could be a phenomenal DJ. You could crush it, but no one will care if you don't sell tickets. Again, take it with a grain of salt because there are some people that will.
Yeah.
Most people won't though.
Yeah.
Especially in like a lot of fast-paced environments. Like they need the newest, freshest guy who could bring their friends out and so on. So
yeah.
With video and photography, if you do a good job and people see it, they're going to be like, wow, they could materialize it. A DJ set, you don't really know if you're a good DJ until you hear them live. Mm-hmm. And even in a place like Frog, for instance, that place was probably the trickiest and hardest learning experience because there's so many rooms. So if you're in one room and the crowd doesn't like what you play, they'll go to the next room because there might be something better.
Yeah.
Music hall, there's one room. You're stuck. You're in there for the experience, right? Mm-hmm. Whatever that may be. So Frog was like a good learning experience to be able to read a crowd, understand, like take a hint when people are leaving and then change the direction you're going. And why was I even talking back? Why was I even going back into DJ?
The passion,
it brings me in.
Yeah.
What were we talking about?
We're talking about like why you pivoted to like videography and photography. It's probably because like it's a similar culture, right? And you said they're more respected, like the
more. Thank you.
Yeah.
So in that world, in the DJ world, it's like you can't tell if he's a good DJ until you experience it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And sure, you could record your set, but you're not there. You don't feel the energy of the room or whatever. It's a lot of people also take advantage of you. You could do a great job, but they don't care if you're not their friend. Mm-hmm. They'd rather hire, the person they know instead of you, even though you crushed it. Whereas with photography and video work, if you do a good job, they will get reactions and feedback from the people around them being like, wow, that is so much better. And they're going to be like, oh, I should probably use this person again. Or they can actually go on your website and actually see the photos and videos and make that decision immediately. Be like, wow, these videos are great. I want to use this person, right? Yeah. So, and you're also kind of working in a much more professional environment instead of, you're working with other businesses, respected businesses, or even in the wedding industry, like couples and so on.
Yeah.
Do you think it's like the return on investment almost in a way? So it's like when people see a DJ set, you don't actually know until like the next time, can you bring him back? More tickets get sold. Versus like with production and stuff like that, it's when they get to see it right away and they know their money's well spent.
Yeah, I would agree with the latter. They could see it, right? Although I also think a lot of people in the photography and video world are creatives who are not social and don't know how to network or run a business. So, for instance, the Fanshawe program for film and photography, they teach you everything you need to know about a camera. Great. They send you off into the world. What are the chances you're going to work at a film production studio at Disney or Netflix or something? Very unlikely, unless you're so highly specialized in a specific niche of a certain thing and you actually have practice at it, which I don't know how you'd get the practice in the first place unless you work on a crazy amount of personal projects. But then how would you get the footage for those projects anyway? So it's like they set you up to work at a high level company in a high level industry when the reality of you getting in there is very small. I think they should really focus. I think the curriculum should be way more business oriented, teaching you how to at least market your services as a small business, because that's how 99% of the photographers and videographers I know do it, right? Like, think about how many photographers do you know that actually work for a big company?
For a big company, not
zero.
How
How many do you know that do it freelance?
A lot.
Quite a few.
Lot.
Quite a few, because that is a more probable thing. Why does Fanshawe not teach you how to do it freelance? And there should be way more courses in teaching you how to, again, market your services.
Yeah.
How to use social media.
Yeah.
It's so prominent in today's culture. It's like you would at least teach a photographer how to properly use a social media platform where they post their work, or how to do basic accounting, because you have to do that stuff if you're running everything through your own business.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of photographers I know grew up taking photos. They're absolutely incredible at it.
But they don't have the talking skills to get themselves in the right room.
Yeah.
Correct. And they don't have the business knowledge of how to run basic books. Right. So there's a lot of that missing. Whereas like from my background, I found it rather easy to take that side of it. I found the photography side and the creative side a lot harder. But I had a whole year during COVID where everybody was stuck at home doing absolutely nothing to sit there. And I just I dialed myself in, sat in a room, and that's all I did.
Did you see the trend of like how social media now is so important in having like those short reels and those long-term like pieces of content on YouTube? Like, did you find the opportunity, or was it another thing that because of the passion for it that led you there?
I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea. Again, I did it because I had fun. Yeah. And I'm like, I want to turn that fun into some kind of revenue.
Yeah.
So I can make money.
Yeah.
Because at the time I was making no money, right? Like I was sitting at home. I'm like, I got to do something. Might as well make something out of this.
Yeah.
And eventually I realized the potential, because I did eventually see the trends. I'm like, especially during COVID, no one could go anywhere. For instance, like real estate. No one could view a house. No one wanted anybody going into their home. So taking photos or videos or 3D tours of homes at the time, everyone was doing it because everybody needed it to actually experience it somehow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I started seeing these things. And I'm like, okay, I know a lot of people from the DJ industry. A lot of them are real estate agents. There's just a lot of small business owners, I guess. Look at you guys. You guys are running a podcast. This is great. Yeah. You're doing your own thing too, right? So it's like, that all came from DJing. So I'm like, I'm going to latch onto those contacts, promote my new business. No one knew what the heck I was doing.
Yeah.
I was literally at home. Like I started off just like, what can I do today? So I remember the one video that actually people are like, yo, that's sick. It was like, I did like a morning routine where it's like, I pretended to wake up, like an alarm was going off. And then I woke up, took the covers off, went into the shower. You didn't see me in the shower. I know you'd want to. You saw me in the shower, and then I'd like go outside for a coffee, and it was like steaming there, but it was like POV, first perspective, and like I'd walk through the house, turn on the radio, and that's when like the music started, and it was like I look back at it now, and I'm like, wow, I know a lot of places that could improve, but it like I just had fun with it, and then I just put it out there so people knew this is what I'm doing now, and I feel like a lot of people in photography or the video world are scared to put their stuff out there because of the criticism.
The posting ghost method.
Yeah. It's just, you don't put it out. If you don't put it out in the world, no one's going to know.
Yeah.
Put it out there. I know so many people that are way more talented than I am, but they don't push it nearly as hard. And the only reason I get the business is because I'm asking for it.
Yeah. You're putting your business sense is coming.
You're marketing it properly.
Marketing, pushing in every way possible, right? So consistency and putting it out there, because so many photographers and videographers I know are creative people and they're amazing at what they do, but they don't push their work and talk to enough people about it. And I feel like if you don't put it out in the world, you won't receive feedback.
Yeah.
And get people receptive to your ideas, I guess. So with my, I guess, entrepreneurial spirit, it was scary at the beginning because I'm like, everyone's going to judge me. I'm new to this. Why do I deserve this more than that guy who I know would do a better job? But you got to start somewhere. I started off with fair pricing. I'm like, I'm new. I'm going to charge less, but I'm going to do my best. And I know I'm going to serve that client the best I can because I'm going to be receptive to what they're telling me. I'm going to try that much harder than the guy I know who will take a client and just do their thing. I'm going to put in 10 times the amount of effort. And that's kind of like the mindset I went into every single time. So clients would come back to me and they'd be like, wow, I appreciate like the extra work you put in, or just like being enthusiastic, like showing up to a shoot and actually understanding the person you're working with. That's a big thing. Being on camera, like today, you guys are sick as hell, right? But like we're vibing. But if I was a quiet individual, and you're like, Paul, like you would try to pull that out of me, right?
Yeah,
like as a podcast host, that's your job, right? To pull that out of me. And that's an important part of being behind the camera, is like, do you get along with that person? And even if you don't, can you get along with them and make them comfortable to be able to do a good job on camera?
Yeah.
So with DJing, which plays a big role in this, it's like you meet so many different people. And a part of it's like you become friends with a lot of them, a lot of different people from a lot of backgrounds, and you kind of get to learn how to get along with everyone, which I think has also helped with just put yourself out there.
Yeah.
What's the big deal? So many people put so much pressure on themselves in certain situations. Just walk into the room like people already know you and they're friends with you. And that is the best advice I actually ever heard. Yeah. And that's a new thing for me, I guess. It's like, I've always overthought certain situations. And when you just go into a place and you're like, these are my friends, pretend like they're your friends and just like, how's it going? I'm Paul. Like banter, talk, hang out like you would with your friends. Everything's going to be okay. What are you afraid of? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's the worst that's going to happen? They're not going to like you. Good. You're going to leave at the end of the day anyway. So go into the room, make people feel comfortable. And then they're going to present themselves on camera a little better too.
Yeah, like a lot of people overthink like sales. You know what I mean? Like you just got to be a person. You got to build that rapport and actually be like real. Like you said, like you were different from the other photographers who were just there to take their shoot. Like you were there to make the client feel comfortable, happy, excited. Like you're boosting them up too, and then you're recording. Like there's a whole different vibe.
You have to be a people person.
Yeah.
There's things where you're kind of removed from that aspect. Like let's say you're covering a concert. You're not interacting with the band. You're there to kind of film them and whatnot, right? But if you're going to be doing a wedding, you have to know your couple. You have to make them comfortable in front of the camera. Even with small businesses, if you're talking with owners of a company, they might be a CEO of some cool like logistics business, for instance, which is a recent client. And it's like, they're not used to being on camera. Sure, like Elon Musk is on camera all the time, but that's like way beyond what I'm dealing with, right? Like if you're talking about a local business, they might not be comfortable on camera, but it's my job to make sure they look their best
Yeah.
and make sure they're comfortable, like they're talking to an employee they've known for a while or just a friend or someone, right? So their conversation comes off natural and they look and sound their best.
Yeah.
That's part of the job, right? Which a lot of people lack.
So did you feel you came from like a personable, not a knowledgeable at first?
Yes, for
Yeah.
sure.
Kind of
100%. I had
like
no
learn
idea
on
what
the
the hell I was
fly.
doing.
Yeah.
I did this because I found joy in it. And it was, sure, I might, again, like I didn't know everything, but in my mentality, I'm like, if I will say yes to everything and figure out after.
Yeah.
So if someone, for like the way I grew I made almost no money the first 2 years of my business because I was doing so many different projects and every project required something different, either a different camera, a different lens, a different piece of audio equipment or something. I said the first 2 years, let's just invest in the business. I'll say yes to a project, quote it just to cover my costs. And then hopefully if I get that type of project again, I'll actually make money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up, let's say, what's one of the first projects I did? I'm trying to even think.
Where's the air show fit? Because that has to be somewhere there, no?
Start.ca. That's prior to all this.
But okay,
Air show was prior to that, but
it's a good one.
he came to the air show when I was selling tickets. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Even
a
when
good
I'm working, I'm working.
Yeah, like, we'll give you the actual text on that one. I actually purchased some tickets for somewhere he was DJing. So like when this is like just
Do you actually know
before-
what show that was?
Could have been the Bigaman show, maybe.
Ever after.
I think it is. I think it was Ever After. This is the one where you were on we had the side stage. This is when Benny Benassi was there that year.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it was. And so I had purchased tickets from Paul. And whatever, e-transfer was sent, and he said to me, he's like, come pick them up. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll come pick them up. The receipts are there. So then where he asked me to pick them up is actually at the airport. And I'm thinking, why the hell am I going to the airport? Only like, so once I get to the airport, he's like, yeah, go behind like these gates, like go behind back. Next thing I know, I'm actually at the airstrip, like right there with him. And I'm like, what am I doing here? Only to see this guy with a camera actually recording stuff. And I was like, okay, this guy's up to something bigger than just DJing at this point. And it kind of took me back, and I was like, that's the one thing. I think you're somebody who wears a lot of hats that you don't even notice you do.
Too many, I feel.
Yeah.
Like,
maybe, but
I feel like I don't, but like it's, yeah. And for a long time, I felt like I have to do it myself. And that was a big realization where I told myself, I'm like, I have to involve more people because I can't do it myself. And even, God, this is a whole other subject. I'm a control freak. I am, because I always want to perfect something, and I'm afraid to let it go if I find, for instance, I'm scared to involve someone else who's better than me because I don't know it myself.
Yeah.
So with the video production, PM Creative Studios is what it's called, PM Creative Studios, video production photography, I felt strange hiring, let's say, a photographer with more experience for a specific shoot because I wouldn't be able to direct them because I didn't know everything about what had to be done, right? So for a long time, for like 3 years, I literally put myself through a lot of stress, I guess, because I was trying to figure it out myself. I'm like, I can't hire someone else if I don't know everything about it.
Yeah.
And I slowly realized, I'm like, it's okay not to know everything. You're paying someone else who's better at it because they could help you in return. And that's kind of where the mentality started when Chase and I opened an office together, Unreal Media, who Chase McAllister, beauty.
Yeah.
We work.
Now he gets his flowers.
Yeah.
We work a lot together. I mean, I film all his content, and he has a fantastic business, and he is quite the character.
Oh fuck
Oh,
yeah.
fuck.
If
yeah,
you go
we-
through my feed, I'm
Yeah.
sure you'll see some videos there. But
we have a podcast with him too. Check that one out if you want to.
there you go.
Yeah, yeah.
That'll give you a good synopsis of
Oh yeah.
what we're dealing with here. But we realized it's a good idea to open an office together because we're always working together. And it was a good opportunity for him to grow his business and me to grow my business. We have a space to actually hire some people. And it was a scary step because I was looking into, I was kind of like watching YouTube videos and reading into like, when is the right time to hire someone? And everyone's like, okay, you got to have like 6 months worth of salary saved up. Like you have this amount of work, blah, blah, blah. Like make sure you're backed up. And to be honest, I wasn't, but I was so backed in work and I couldn't handle everything myself. I said, screw it. I'm going to take some money out of the savings account. Should give me some buffer room and then hope for the best, because then I could work on the business instead of in the business and literally doing everything and just consuming myself with being at the shoots, editing everything, client emails, accounting, whatever, everything. So I said, what if I just get someone to edit everything I shoot? That way I could be there one day to film whatever project that may be, get someone to get it done. And then instead of actually doing the edits, I could work on the business, sales, marketing, even consistency in my own social media posts. I have the luxury of having so much marketing material because whatever client I might have, their marketing material is my marketing material, right?
Yeah, facts.
It's not like a business where, what's a good example? I mean, like a restaurant. It's not like they're taking photos of their stuff. That's an extra step for them. For me, I'm already taking those photos. I just have to repost them on my own social and say, restaurants looking for photos and video, like come to me, right?
Yeah,
it's there. But that's an extra step to make those posts because you're so consumed by the client work that you have to take that effort to actually do it on your own as well, on your own business account, my own business
So
account.
were you like hesitant in outsourcing the stuff because like you didn't feel like you were a good enough leader to have people, or was it because you don't think that they could have produced the product the same quality you would have with your own vision?
A bit of both.
Yeah.
Finding someone was one hell of a challenge.
Yeah.
Someone I was comfortable. So yes,
The hiring process.
I might have not been, I didn't see myself. That's a problem with social media too, is you look at, it can consume you in a way where you see so many people on social media doing better than you, and you always will, no matter what level you're at.
Yeah.
That even if I was like working for McDonald's making commercials, I'd always find someone making something better because I feel like everyone is always trying to improve themselves, right?
Yeah.
And there's always going to be someone better. So there's always kind of like, am I doing good enough? But at the same time, I didn't know enough. So I was like, do I want to hire someone better than me, or should I hire someone who's just starting and I train them to my level?
Mm.
And it was this balance, right? And I said, screw it, might as well find someone who's better than me, offer the job, because a lot of these people, like I said, are struggling to find business. They're great at what they do, but they don't have recurring revenue they could rely on as a full-time job.
Yeah.
So if I could provide that full-time job for them and they're able to just focus on the creativity instead of the business side, it benefits both of us.
Mhm.
They get to do what they love, but I get to run my business.
Yeah. And did you see a huge like difference once you hired that person?
Massive.
Mm.
Yeah.
It was a massive leap of faith because of the financial situation. I'm like, how am I now you're supporting someone, right?
Yeah.
You're promising them something and you got to keep that ball rolling, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's
You gotta
not
keep them
it's-
excited. You gotta keep them like motivated to want to keep
and I have to
on
make
with
enough money to pay them.
You're not just
Yeah.
taking care of yourself at this point.
You're
care
taking care of people, man.
of,
That's
and it
big
could be a
responsibility.
family at that point also.
Yeah.
Right?
Luckily not. Luckily not yet. Although there's some office romances starting to escalate. And we're like, it's interesting because like Chase and I, we started this office together and I love the guy to death. He has his own separate insurance agency. I have my video production company, but we work hand in hand. We work hand in hand, and we have two different sides of the office, the sales side and then the creative side.
Mhm.
And it's interesting to see the dynamic grow because I've always worked in businesses that are established. So you just kind of jump in and there's this office culture that's already existing.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, this is kind of my position. You know, you got your bosses and then your coworkers and so on. But like here, it's like so new. You're seeing it from the start where it's like Chase and his wife. And then there's me and my wife. And then we
that's
start
really cool.
building the pieces, building blocks, right?
Yeah,
and then like, it's so crazy because it's like, okay. And that's kind of how we created some of our content because when we only had a few employees, we gave specific roles to each of them for the skits we were creating.
Yeah.
But we didn't make up roles. We just kind of dramatized their personalities
That's funny.
in a way.
Yeah.
So they just had to be themselves, just a bit more out there.
Yeah.
So it came really easy to everyone to participate in these videos at the office
Yeah.
because it didn't take much work. It's like, all right, be a little more excited and say more outlandish things than you normally would say, but to say them the way you normally would. And anytime anyone comes in for an interview, we say, are you okay being on camera? Fantastic. The first day they come into the office, we shove a camera in their face. We put it on a tripod. We're like, you're being recorded all day. Good luck.
Yeah.
And we get them comfortable in front of the camera. That way we could freely walk around, record. Chase is doing his skits. If we need someone to be involved in the video, we end up just saying like, hey, this is your role. This is what you're going to be doing. Let's go. And they're ready to go. And everyone's expecting the camera in their face.
Yeah.
And now we're kind of like growing the team. So people are like being promoted to managers or senior editors and this and that. And then you're like seeing the little relationships and friendships growing in the office. And it's like, wow, we're like building a community.
Yeah,
it's so beautiful to see, right?
Yeah, and it's a unique one too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you never been to an interview where they're like, are you okay on camera? Right? It's like you guys are changing the way like these offices are working, right? My favorite is the office skits that you guys do.
Yeah.
Those are fucking hilarious, bro. Like the red light room.
Yeah. And the best part is like, it's so natural.
Yeah.
Because we literally also like, we don't hire, as soon as there's an awkward person, like, I'm not saying you can't be quiet and shy, but like we have quiet and shy people at the office and they play their role in those skits, right?
Yeah.
We just find people that mesh well together and just people who are just like good people who are approachable and open to certain ideas and are, you know,
crazy world that you guys are running.
Like we warn them. We're like, this is kind of a crazy place, right? Like shit's happening all over the place.
Yeah.
But like,
you guys do like, well, we have to pump those up, but it's like you guys do gunfights, like Nerf gunfights.
let me get there.
Yeah.
That's part of the thing, right? The initiation. So
Initiation. this high school again all over.
it is. So how did that even start? I'm curious. But we have the office is quite a big space and there's like different levels to it. So we're like, this would be amazing to play laser tag. And we're like, let's buy Nerf guns. And eventually we like bought some off Amazon and we found better versions of them. So we have like a crazy amount of Nerf guns, but the better you do at your job, the better gun you have access to.
Oh, that's sick.
That's crazy.
So incentivize the employees.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
So
okay.
we have these guns, and the rule is if you're at your desk, you're not allowed to be shot because you're working, right? Or you're not expecting it. But as soon as you get off your seat, it's fair game.
Watch
you
it.
can
That's
shot.
sick culture. The culture there is sick. Okay.
So it's like, you know, it also like if you need a break, just pick up a gun and shoot each other. Let's go, right? Let's have a Nerf gun fight. Like that's kind of what we're all about. And I feel like that's super important, especially in the creative industry, to be able to just like let loose. It's not a corporate space where it's like you have to wear a suit and tie and you can't say things that aren't like, tell me how you're feeling. If you're not feeling good, bring it to me. You want the day off because you're not creative and you have something on your mind. Sure, go for it. Take the day off. Like we want you to be in a comfortable environment, let loose, play Nerf guns, be a kid again, right? That's kind of what I realized too, like getting into this is like, how do I get my head into a creative space at all times. Working with like a client's like, hey, I need this video. It's like, okay, how do I come up with something different? And it's like, think outside the box, which is very difficult nowadays. I feel like things are so constrained.
Yeah.
And you are put into a box. So we're trying to do things differently.
Yeah.
And
how is it for you to be a creative leader?
I'm learning every day, man.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I can't even answer that question because it's so new, right? Like when we hired Jeremy, he was our first employee, senior editor, crushes it. He's from Lighter Juice. He owns Lighter Juice, if you heard of it.
Yeah, I know the brand.
So not band. They film all the music
brand,
videos
the brand
for brand.
Yeah,
they film all the music videos. So he knows his shit. He's really good.
Yeah, he has a good network too.
Yeah.
Really good network.
I said, so the way he hired me to be a second shooter for one of his weddings, and we worked together. And let me tell you, rewind because I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
You said we were talking about finding the first employee and why I did it. So sometimes when I was backlogged on certain work, I would try to outsource. And we were talking about this, I think.
Yeah, doing VAs and stuff like that.
So I would outsource, and the way I would find, a lot of people actually inboxed me, and 99% of the emails I get ignored. But I always creep the link to kind of see their portfolio and see their work. I'm like, interesting, just on my lunch break or whatever. And that's how I found all of them, actually. It was just cold emails being sent to me. And I found this one lady in the Philippines, and she had a very interesting portfolio, but it's difficult to gauge because if she creates an edit for someone who's filming their second wedding, is going to be completely different than if she's editing a video for someone who's been doing wedding videos for 10 years, right? So it's like, how skilled was the production team on that project versus her editing skills, right? So I pulled the plug. The Philippines, I'm not going to lie, really cheap to outsource there.
Yeah.
But what I found was it was a hit and miss. So either the project came back mind-blowingly amazing because she did something different that I've never seen before, or it was something I could never even consider posting on anything or sending to a client. Yeah. So then I'd end up either going to someone else or re-editing it myself after already waiting for the deliverable.
Yeah.
Or spending money somewhere else or getting her to redo it. And it's not even like, hey, here are the corrections. It's like, start from scratch.
Yeah.
Try something different. Like,
yeah.
Right. And then I found another company out from basically Russia, Georgia. It's a country next to Georgia. Yeah. He's from Russia. And he was probably 4 times the price. And it wasn't anything extravagant, but it was consistent every single time. So I know I can go to him and be like, nothing too fancy happened with this project. I just need it clean, simple, nice. I know you're going to do a good job, and send it to him, right? Yeah. So there's like a balance you got to find with outsourcing. It's very difficult because you're not with them. Yeah. You're sending it off and hoping for the best. Sure, you could do a couple Zoom calls here and there, but having an employee in the office, they're right next to you. You see step by step exactly what they're doing. You can get feedback. They can ask you questions, make sure it's going in the right direction. Look at it, be like, hey, what's your progress like? What kind of music are you using now? You can convey ideas way easier. You don't have to upload all the files and everything. You could literally just be there with them, right? Yeah. So we said, screw it. We're going to probably losing a lot of money, but in the end, we're going to get a consistent product with someone next to us. We could creatively direct them way better, oversee every single project, and then hopefully be able to work on a business that's going to actually, where I'll be able to actually work on the business and grow it to be able to support the team.
Like having someone in-house probably just like they understand the culture. They understand what you're looking for. Like as opposed to someone in the Philippines, like you said, a couple Zoom calls, they still don't get it. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's interesting.
And it's important, like just for our own social life. Like my wife, so I started the business in 2020.
Yeah.
Wife joined less than a year ago. It's rather new.
Okay.
Because I was doing this. Joanna, she was working at RBC, sick and tired of it.
Yeah.
Corporate life.
Yeah.
And she was kind of looking, she's like, man, why are you always doing all these fun things? Blah, blah. I want to start my own business too. And she was trying to figure out what she was doing. And I'm like, why are you going to start from scratch? Go through this learning curve when I'm already doing something that I already kind of have a grasp on. Help me grow this. We could collectively work on something greater. And she jumped on board. She's like, let's do it, baby.
That's sick.
And like part of the problem was like so I was working all the time on my business. She was at her work. And when we came home at the end of the day, she was tired and didn't want to talk about work anymore, right? Like who wants to talk about their corporate job? Like they don't care. They just want to relax, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I was like thinking about the next thing. What am I doing here? And I'm like trying to talk to her about it. And she's like, I don't want to hear it, right?
Yeah.
It's exhausting almost.
Exhausting, of course. Like, I don't blame her. It is. I wouldn't want to do it either if I was working for someone else, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's why I left so many jobs too. But when she joined the business, now it's like we're seeing each other 24/7. That's a whole other story, right?
Yeah.
I love it because I'd way rather see her 24/7 than not see her at all.
Yeah.
And now when we go home, even dinner, like, terrible. We have to figure out boundaries, but like even when we go on date night, it turns into like,
do you do this?
Did you do this? Did you do that? Like, what are we doing? Let's plan our future. Like, what are the next goals and steps we're gonna take? Right? Like, what about this equipment or hiring this person or that or that? Yeah. And it's like, I love it and hate it at the same time because now we're talking about work a little too much, but at least we're both in the same mindset and we have like our goals aligned where we're both working on the same thing.
Yeah, it's a blessing to have like a woman to have that same sort of vision. You know what I mean? Like I have a cleaning company, and recently, like my wife as well, she started like helping out in the cleaning company. And like you said, like we're talking about it all the time, but it's one of those things where it's like we both have that like vision towards it, right? We're both like helping one another grow, and it's a blessing though. Yeah. It's a blessing. Yeah. It's like I would not want it any other way. Yeah. You know, like her being upset because I'm excited about something.
Exactly.
Like,
right.
You know
it's
I mean?
like, oh, leave me alone about work.
Yeah.
I know. She's like, I love that.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Yes.
And they'll call you out on bullshit. They'll be like, why didn't you do this? Yeah. And you're like, fuck.
Why? Because they know more than they hold you accountable. Because again, like I'm sure she knows a lot more than anybody else, right? So it's like having that accountability on it is good.
Do you find with yourself you're a visionary versus like an integrator? Or do you try
another way to put that, I guess, is am I an optimist? Because I always see things in the better light. So like oftentimes I'll be like, we could do this, and that. And then Joanna's the one who's like, okay, but is that realistic?
Yeah, relax.
Right? And I'm like, no, we can do it. So it's like,
literally,
it's good to have that balance also, right? Whereas like, I dump everything into one thing and she's like, maybe there's a better way to do it.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay. So we find like a middle ground. Whereas like again, with a lot of things, she's a little more skeptical and she analyzes things a little bit harder than I do. Whereas I just see an opportunity and I jump on it immediately.
Yeah.
So it's a good middle ground.
Yeah. And like it helps in the relationship too. Because like you guys really understand like stress together, right? Like getting through something together. Like it just adds a whole different dynamic that you wouldn't be exposed to if you weren't doing business with your partner, right? So
absolutely.
So yeah, fuck.
Sure, but
I know I'm sweating like a bitch, man.
I just trying to give you
I know. I don't know if it's this sweater.
Why are you wearing a sweater? It's like 40 degrees.
It's because last podcast.
You too.
Last podcast, I wore this. I'm gonna take off this fucking.
I'm in shorts and a t-shirt. You guys are in long pants.
I don't feel like that. And even too on last pod, I wore a jersey. So I'm like, okay, I gotta change it up
like
for you.
the first podcast, I wore this shirt, and I'm like, I can't be back to back podcasts with the same shit. But I brought a fucking sweater, bro.
No, terrible idea.
Fuck that shit. Anyways,
so
I want to ask you, like, what was the biggest thing you've changed within yourself? Oh,
hold on. Ask that question. I want to hear it. Joanna she went to Fanshawe for marketing, but never did anything in marketing. Oh. So when she joined the business, I handed off those responsibilities to her. So she's handling a lot of the back end that I can't because I do a lot of the creative work. Although she has an amazing creative mind. So yes, she does that. But like my main responsibility is managing the editors and producing the content, right? So my mind is kind of involved in that space. So often some of the marketing and sales and emails and website work and all that, she's taking all of that on, and she does an incredible work. And one thing we realized was, like, when I first started the business, obviously I put up my business on Google. I did all the basics, but I didn't understand SEO to the extent she does. And we live in Arva, and I was basically running the business out of my house for the first few years until we got the office. My house is in Arva. The office is in London. And I was trying to grow the business for London clients, but my address on Google was in Arva. Once we started doing SEO, Joanna was doing all the website work, everything that's required for that end, we weren't seeing any results. But when we got the office in London, that changed everything. Because having a location in London and being listed as a business in London, boom, we like skyrocketed to the 3rd position on Google when you search video production and videography.
Wow.
Which we were like, what are we doing wrong? We've been doing this for months, blogs, SEO, everything, and nothing was working. And eventually we realized, oh, it's because we're listed as a business in Arva. No one's searching Arva, Ontario, right? 100%. So,
although it's so close, like it's like
so close, but
care.
you would think. I was like, oh, I'm right there. I see myself. But no. So again, that was a big change. And then she's absolutely crushing that. So half the business is coming from Google now.
Yeah.
Solely based off that.
Yeah, because we had asked, is it referrals or marketing?
Referrals, obviously huge, right? Like you want happy clients who are talking about you, selling you to other people, right? But the other half is Google. Surprising, honestly. Most of my leads were coming off Facebook. Especially in the wedding industry. I was always in the wedding groups for brides and grooms and like searching for a videographer. And then you'd like post a comment saying like, hey, come find me. I'd love to work with you, blah, blah, blah. And eventually we priced ourselves out of the Facebook marketplace is what I realized.
Were you too low or too high? Like,
I was in a fair price range at the beginning, but we ended up increasing our prices. Our weddings are like just the base package of our wedding starts at $34.50. So at that point, we started. When I first started, I was trying like $800 for a wedding.
Wow.
So like,
really?
Eventually, after a few weddings, I posted them, bumped it up. Did a few more, bumped it up, and I kept bumping it up until I realized even on Facebook, people weren't even considering it. Because I realized a lot of people there are just kind of looking for the best deal.
Yeah.
And the higher end clients are finding their vendors either through the venue recommendations or through referrals, right? Like, hey, this guy crushed my wedding.
Yeah.
You should use him. So at the beginning, I was finding all my clients through Facebook because I was one of the cheaper vendors, especially starting off, right? So people were eating that up. I'm like, hey, I'll do your wedding and I'll do my best to crush it. So eating it up, a lot of work. And eventually when I increased my prices, they're like, oh, that's how much he's charging? Not even any responses.
Yeah.
So there was 1 year where all the business went down. And I'm like, I got to figure this out.
Yeah.
But then again, we went back, revised what the heck we were doing. Google helped a lot. Networking just with other vendors. Yeah. Wedding planners, venues, bar services, right? Yeah. That's how I met one of the podcast hosts on Industry Night.
Yeah.
And
those clients are better to deal with. Like they don't fucking ask questions. They're not nitty. Like they're not asking you, why is this here? They just trust you. They pay their bills and that's it.
Yes, I agree. Although I think I was lucky. I've had a few of those, but I was also lucky enough to be able to, even like when I was priced at a lower range, I love my couples.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I feel like I took, again, a lot of people say like, find a niche. If you're in the commercial world, like stick with real estate and focus on that, or work on music videos and stick with that, or in the wedding industry, find your couple and just work with them. But I'm like a yes man, I guess, in a way. Like, whereas I'm fuck it, I need money. Let's
Yeah,
go.
let's
I'll
do it
take
all.
whatever you got. Like I said, that's where I finished off actually. The first couple of years where I was just saying yes to everything. And I was buying all the equipment just to pay it off, right? So I say yes to everything. And anyway, I'm like, I'll accept the challenge. Let's figure it out. And I ended up doing like a lot of people ask, like, what kind of video work do you do? And like, that's kind of why I'm positioning myself as a video production and photography agency, because we do a bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And we now, at the beginning, I thought I could do everything. I think I have a pretty good understanding of most of it, but that's why we're hiring a lot of people good at their specific niche so we could provide services for all of them. Because I want to, if you're a wedding client, yeah, we got people to crush your wedding and the editors to do it. If you have a real estate shoot, we have someone for that too. If you have a small business and you just need social media content, we could do that. If you need an advertisement, whether it's going on social media or it's going to be like a YouTube ad or going on TV, we could do that too. So because I started off saying yes to everything, I learned a bit about how to do a bit of everything rather than just like, oh, I only do event coverage or something like that, concerts, right? So we're trying to find a way to systemize it to make it easier and flow a bit easier. But I was lucky enough to have clients that were actually quite nice. Because I've heard a lot of horror stories. There's a lot of horror stories out there. And I've came close to some of them happening, but I think I feel like I'm a pretty open and easygoing person. So if there's a traumatic experience or something like at a wedding, I had a bride when we were doing a portrait shoot in the field. She walked through dog shit and there was shit all over her dress.
Oh, fuck.
Traumatic experience on a wedding day. What'd you say? So, but like, I feel like I could
come back from it.
Or get her out of that.
Calm her down. Don't worry. Nothing. We'll clean it up, right? Smell awful. But a lot of people in that situation would freeze up and be like, oh my God, this is awful. What the hell are we going to do? Blah, blah, right? And turn it into a traumatic situation. So like you can make the client react in a way that's going to end up turning out to be a bad experience.
Yeah. And I love what you said, because like it reminds me of my uncle. Like my uncle, he does renovations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, yeah, like I can do a bathroom before you ever did a bathroom. But like, yeah, I can fucking do it.
Do it.
Like, sin miedo al éxito. That means don't be scared of your higher self. Yeah. You don't know what you're capable of until you fucking do it.
Also, having the money in your bank helps you solve that problem a lot easier than trying to figure out first.
Yeah.
Because, for instance, I worked for, I created political campaigns for some politicians.
Which ones?
Paul in politics.
I hate politics, but point is, a team for the politician came to me and they're like, hey, can you shoot an interview? Mm-hmm. And at the time, I didn't have enough cameras. I didn't have the lighting. And I had basic knowledge of like how you were going to shoot an interview. And I said, we could do it. Absolutely. Like you got to have confidence.
Yeah,
if you doubt yourself, the client will feel it. And they're going to be like, there's hesitation. I don't know if that's the right person. Sell it. Yeah. Put your heart and energy into it. Like, yeah, I could do it. Like, how else can I help you? Tell me what you need. I'll be there. Let's figure it out. Boom. You get the deposit, immediately buy the equipment you need. YouTube. I would literally, YouTube University, baby. Like, just go to YouTube. How to shoot interviews. 2-person interview, 3-person interview, whatever it might be. Yeah. YouTube it. Read it. Buy a book. I don't know. Figure it out. What equipment do you need? What kind of lenses? How far are they going to be? What kind of lighting do you need? Buy it. Spend all your money. Make nothing. But at least buy that equipment so you could run the shoot. Get a friend to help you. And then at least you broke even. Yeah. And now the next interview you get, you have all the equipment.
It's even easier.
Yeah, it's even easier, right? So like...
Just got to fucking throw yourself in the water.
Issue. Everything, every problem that comes across, you could solve. You just got to figure out how to solve it.
Yeah. Especially nowadays, like we have the resources to know how to do anything.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. Although YouTube is a black hole. It's like you can get a lot. I've gotten a lot of courses where at the beginning, especially, we're kind of misleading, where it's like, I wish I did things like, I don't wish I did them differently, but like I now realize after trying and experimenting a bunch of different ways, I'm like, I could have done that differently and I should have done it differently. So it's like, you could find people telling you one thing, this is the way you have to do it. And that's kind of what was misleading, is they say that's how you have to do it instead of saying, this is how I did it and it worked for me.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, especially not knowing the industry and whatever the hell I was doing as a newbie in it, it was like, oh, this is how you have to do it, right? But it's like, no, it's like, that's one way to do it. What works for you in a certain situation?
Yeah. Yeah. So what got you into podcasting?
God. Okay. So yeah, I have a podcast called Industry Night. And the reason I started it was because I was going to get hired by someone to film their podcast. My friend Matthias, DJ Fresh Seas, awesome guy. He was going to run a podcast with Joel Riche, who owns a mobile bar business. We're all in the wedding industry, and they were going to talk about business. I think it was going to be a pretty generic conversation. And I came to them and they wanted a quote, and I said, I want to be a host on that podcast. Screw it. I'll give it to you for free. Let's work together, right? Like, again, I'm all about opportunity. I'm like, I hate being in front of the camera. I was petrified, by the way.
What compelled you to do that then? Like, why?
I'm always behind the camera. Always, right? So I'm always like directing people what to do. But as soon as I'm in front of a camera, I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Like, if I post a reel and I have to get myself talking in front of my phone, give me at least 30 minutes to record a 10-second line. Like, I just freeze up.
Yeah.
But it was a challenge, I guess. I'm like, I have to do this as like a business owner, as someone that like I'm trying to meet new people. I'm like, I was DJing. Like, I'm in front of crowds of people. Why can't I do this? Right. Yeah. So I said, screw it. Let me be a partner in the podcast. 3 hosts, which is a pretty big challenge in itself because we're 3 people. Imagine having 5 people on a podcast.
Yeah.
It's just like the production is kind of like a little more hectic at that point.
Just even talking space. Like, we're just like, when does everyone get their chance to like chime in?
Yeah. So, which is okay with me because then we like split the responsibility of talking. That's how I kind of found it too, right? It's not like if it was just me interviewing someone, way riskier. Whereas here it's like, you got 2 other people to rely on. We're all friends. We met each other. We got along. We're like, this would be a great partnership.
It's like sometimes when we interview somebody, like I'm about to say something, but he says something better. I'm like, yo, you saved me. Because I was about to take this, like, you know, so it's like you kind of rely on, like,
it's a dance, give and go, right? It's like
it's a dance.
When you can't do something, you have to rely on your
partner, pick it up.
right? And he will pick it up.
Yeah.
It's like, I think that's where, not to kind of sway off, but like, I guess like, it's why we've been successful is the fact that it's more a dependency on each other. Yeah. It's like, okay, you know your expertise, I know my expertise, but also too,
but
it's
that's
like,
the beauty
pick
of it.
me up.
That's why relying on
down.
other people is amazing, right? And that's like something I had to learn is like, we're hiring someone, I have to let go and just let them do their thing.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing, right? Like just trusting other people. And Joel, Matthias, and I got along amazing. We realized. Joel gave me some tests. He's like, asking me hard questions. He's like, does this guy know? Like, he was so stern with me at the beginning. I'm like, wow, this guy's an asshole. But like, he opened up eventually. He's like, nah, just testing you. I just wanted to see if you were real or not. Like, all right, you're cool. So we decided to start this podcast because we were spending so much time at networking events. And I realized it's so corporate. And again, this is why I left my day job, is because like, I can't handle this like facade almost where you can't be yourself. You have to be so professional. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. It's so hard to meet people that way. So I'd go to these networking events, try to meet other businesses, and it kind of like turn into a brag show. And people are like, oh, look at me. I'm doing great. Like, what do you do? And it's like, cool. I'm me.
Yeah.
And you can connect with people on a genuine level. So I went to all these events, hated it. I did it because I had to. So I'm like, guys, let's just do this podcast. My time is it's better spent on this podcast connecting with local businesses and have real conversations and then put it out in the world so other people can take value out of it than going to these networking events. So that's kind of where we shifted our perspective to that. So we did the podcast, ran it out of Joel's basement. Amazing. I say basement, but like it's a beautiful house.
Yeah.
So we just set up the production out there, and we've recorded 8 episodes. They're still coming out. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Our podcast episodes average 2.5 hours. So they're quite lengthy. As you can tell, I'm probably a talker. They're talkers. So we're all just like, we can never end the conversation, but they're really interesting. Like, even though we're all in the wedding industry, so we're trying to keep it events related, not necessarily to weddings, but just events in general. And it's called Events Unveiled because everybody posts on Instagram the perfect story. You look at people have like abusive relationships, but they look perfect on Instagram. You're like, wow, they look so happy. But you know the real story behind it all. Yeah. And it's the same with businesses. Like, so many people talk and show the successful side of it, and no one talks about the hard parts. So you're like, a lot of people are like, oh, this is easy. Why don't I do it? So many people have that attitude. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't see last week where we were crying, or where we lost this much money, or this happened, or an employee stole this, or whatever. And not saying any of my employees stole anything. Although I am going to call out Grace. She spilt water on a laptop.
Oh, shit.
Grace, are you paying for that?
It's okay. We still love her. No, she's great. She was an intern, and then we hired her full time because we're like, we can't let her go.
After the laptop though.
So you guys are like sharing those like real stories and behind the scenes.
So the whole point is like, we tell all our guests is like, we're gonna have a real talk. We're gonna go out there and we're gonna put you on the spot, because we don't want to hear you talking about how great it's going. I want to dive deep. How did you start? Why? How did that happen? Okay, you grew this. Like, there's a gap there. Tell me about that, because we want to hear about, like, we want to give value to the listeners about the bullshit behind the scenes, because there's a lot of it. Like I told you about the DJ industry, for instance, right? Like there's so much going on behind the scenes. It's like, if people just followed my Apollo Instagram, it's like, oh, look at this guy. He got this gig and now, but it's like, take it easy. Yeah. I nearly quit at almost after every single one of those posts. But the only reason I went on is because, like, I love it.
It's always so sunny.
Yeah.
And that's where the value hides. Like in those stories, like in the gap, like, like I did this and I went here. It's like, no, wait, like that. So, like, what happened, right?
Yeah,
that's the valuable shit.
And I was at a convention recently, and it was like a motivational sales training where they had a handful of guest speakers, and it was almost it was motivational. I was like, wow, these guys are doing great. Like, I want to own this and that, and like build a team culture to cultivate that type of energy to be successful. But there were a lot of gaps. Some of the stories were like, oh, we started here and we had 5 employees. I was broke. And then we have 100 employees and we're doing great. And it's like, that's a big gap right there. Hold up. How did you do it? There must have been something there, right?
Yeah.
Which you don't explain. And we ended up, after the podcast and talking to people, we realized everyone's kind of sick and tired of these networking events that are too corporate. So we're like, when we launched our first season of Industry Night, we did like a little release party, and people had a great time there. And it was like a really relaxed environment, and people actually made really good connections. And we're like, why don't we take that idea and turn it a little bit more into a formal event, but do it as a networking thing where people are actually forced to connect with one another.
Yeah.
And so we started Fail Fast collaboration series, which is basically our Industry Night podcast networking event.
Yeah.
And we brought on a couple people from our podcast to the event to speak. They're only 20-minute speeches, 2 speakers a night, but the rest of the time we're kind of doing something fun and interactive. You're allowed to drink, have fun, and kind of we have live music. We kind of create an environment where free roam, enjoy yourself. It's not about putting up a facade.
Yeah.
It's called Fail Fast for a reason. We're talking about our fuck ups. And the tagline is, we fucked up so you don't have to.
Yeah.
So we specifically talked to speakers, presenters, guests to talk about how they messed up and what they learned from it. So they don't go up there and just brag. Oh, look how good I'm doing. Look at my sales. This is how you get successful. No, it's like, no, give me an example of where you messed up and what you did to learn it from it, because that's way more realistic for everybody to learn from than talking about how well you're doing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're pushing with the guest speakers to kind of get the conversation going. And then the rest of the time it's like fail fast.
Is that like is that monthly, or is that like how often are you guys throwing events? Quarterly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we just had our first event a couple weeks ago.
Was
And
it
then
last week?
Last week?
Seems it was last week.
Dude, my
Are you
track
sure
of
it was
time. I
last
don't
week?
keep track of time.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
It was last. It was Friday. It was last
It
week.
was last week.
Yeah.
So
Remember we were gonna attend, but
Yeah, but we had an
episodes.
yeah,
no,
episodes.
episodes on Thursdays. You're here
Offending.
on Thursday right now.
offending.
So change those days. Change those
And
days.
what
Our Thursdays were
Change
first.
those days,
Those
yeah.
were first. Those were
Yeah.
first, but
You're a brave guy.
No, the next one's in September 26th. You have
Let's book that shit off
2-3
right now.
months?
Let's
Yeah.
book that
Thursday
shit off
though?
right now.
Thursdays?
It is
Those are already-
Fuck that. Let's book it
do
off.
your podcast on a Wednesday instead.
No, we'll do. No, it's much appreciated, and like
Yeah, of course.
it's good that you're actually doing those things also, right? Because
Yeah.
I think even in London, it's a very small city,
Mhm.
but I think it's very hard for everybody to actually intermingle. Everybody rather go to Toronto, Windsor,
Yeah.
Sarnia,
Yeah.
It's huge.
Waterloo, like
Yeah.
Kitchener, everywhere else. Everybody wants to connect everywhere else,
Mhm.
but in London.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big flaw that we have here.
It's weird. London's it's almost like, so I actually met this cinematographer from Colombia a couple weeks ago. Amazing guy. And he came to London to try something new. Because he's like, it's a middle-sized city. It's not Toronto, expensive as hell and busy. Close enough that I can go there when I want. Same reason why we're probably still here.
Yeah.
And he's so excited about London and the community. And I was like, that's such an interesting perspective, because I know so many people readily looking to leave London.
Yeah.
And London's a big city.
Yeah.
It is. It's actually rather large, and we have so much potential here. But it's such a shit show at the same time.
I look at the downtown core, like all the high rises now. Like I'm like, holy shit! Like looks like a big city now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like you said, like London's like a testing ground. Like they open a Chick-fil-A at London first to see if it works. You know what I mean? Like we're that city. Like,
Chick-fil-A, McDonald's,
all that.
gas
Chop came out,
prices.
Yeah. They test it first here, right?
We're the
like,
rats.
yeah, we're the rats. We're the fucking rats. But like what Coca said is like we haven't really felt the presence of like having collaboration through media here in London. Like you gotta go to Toronto, you gotta go out there. But like I feel like it's like the collaboration between like us who are doing it, podcasters, right?
Yeah.
And eventually this is gonna be a hub for that.
Yeah, I really hope so.
It's
Yeah.
a limited mindset I find here, right? Because everybody's thinking like,
Very.
you're going to take business away from me versus like, okay, we can do business together and actually make
Which is
more.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's also something I realized is like, sure, that's like a natural kind of
It's jealousy
mindset
territory,
to have
yeah.
is like, oh, that's my competitor, right?
Yeah.
Defense mechanism.
Yeah, 100%.
Correct.
Yeah.
But it's like, as soon as I've realized like these people are like good people, they're friends. And I've gone to other video production companies and I'm like, would you like to work with me on a project? And they're like, absolutely. And I'm like, wow, that was easy. Like
Yeah.
all you had to do was ask. Like, we're not enemies, we're friends. There's so much business out there. Let's help each other.
Yeah.
Because at the end, we're all trying to do better. And if we, instead of fighting against each other, if we help each other, we're all going to do way better.
Oh yeah.
100%.
Yeah,
It's the same with like this thing, right? Like the intern I hired, Grace, she went to Fanshawe for the film course, and all the professors for the co-op recommended studios in Toronto, which is crazy to me. I'm like, there's got to be more in London to be able to, like, you're recommending students to go to a different city. That's insane to me. There's so much opportunity here. Like, at least maybe there's not enough businesses that are established enough to be able to offer something stable for a co-op student, but like there has to be.
Yeah.
And there should be at a city this size anyway.
Yeah.
I think even too, it's like if the niche or that gap is there, it's for us to create it, right?
Yeah.
Like that actual ability for it. It's like, okay, now you saying that is like, okay, guess what? Fanshawe,
Yeah.
Like there's
and
people
it's
here.
an abundance mindset. Like there's enough to go around for everybody. Like the collaboration, like that's where you get more, right? Like it's not like you collab and all of a sudden there's not enough food for you to eat. Like everyone can eat, everyone can be happy, and everyone's busy. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's like the beauty of like working together with other people, right?
That's what I realized, right? It's like I've always been in this bubble where it was like, no, I have to do it myself. I can't ask for help. That's like a bad thing, right? But no, it's like reach out.
Yeah.
There's a whole community of people that are so good at what they do. Involve them in one bigger vision, and everyone's gonna be able to eat from it.
And those people are actually more likely to want to help you too. And that's what I found out. Like hanging out with like entrepreneurs or investors or people who are like that have that growth mindset. They're the best people to talk to because they'll give you all the juice, and you're just like, whoa, fuck, like when you talk to a regular average Joe, like they'll think you're competing, right? When you talk to someone who has like that growth mindset, it's like we're the same fucking person here, right? Yeah.
I love it.
Fuck yeah.
No, it's been bro. It's been a time, bro.
Yeah, it's probably been almost 2 hours. Holy
yeah, like, this has been a crazy one, and I think we always just hit the question from here.
Yeah, the question is, would you, as a little kid, would you be proud of the man you are today?
Absolutely.
I love that.
Which is, I say that now, but I feel like I take it for granted often in the position that I am. So in the moment, you realize that you're like, or some people are like, even myself, often you're caught up in the moment where you're like DJing in front of maybe a music hall in front of 2,000 people. And it's like, that's a lot of people. And you're there and you're just like in the moment, not even realizing it. But you have to put effort into taking a step back and just like taking it in.
Yeah.
And I think that's why sometimes I'm like, I might be in a stressful situation or in a bad spot, but I think I could deal with that stress because I think about that. It's like, where did I start? Where am I now? A lot of people, and again, we brought this up earlier, where it's like, you're looking, social media, man, it's a fucking disease. It's
it's toxic.
Even for myself, like I have to take breaks from it and it's tough. It's hard, man. It's like a drug.
Mm-hmm.
You get addicted to that thing. It's like you're on the toilet. You're like, oh, I'm bored. Let's scroll, right? It's like
you're fucking in the toilet for 20 minutes.
Yeah, so you're like always looking at crazy things. Like we were not built to consume the amount of information we're taking in.
100%.
Like we could look at someone who's in Europe doing something incredible, but they're no one. In a way, like they're not even known, right? You might just come across a video and you're like, oh my God, why aren't I like them?
Yeah.
And it's like, you're not supposed to be interconnected to every little possibility around the globe at one time at the touch of a fingertip. Yeah. So it's like depressing. It is, right? But when you put that phone away and you just take a moment and you're like, look at where we are. Like,
right?
Yeah.
Where we started, man. Like, this is great. We're having a great conversation. We're in a room and we're putting it out in the world for everybody else to see. And we're just like enjoying life. And that's what it's about.
Yeah.
Take a moment to breathe and enjoy life. And like, that's what helps me deal with things. Is like little moments like this.
Yeah.
Could never have said fucking better than that.
Yeah, literally.
Well, I guess sadly enough, we do have to come to a wrap.
It's late.
Yeah, it's not yeah.
Yeah. But no, like, yeah, honestly, I feel like this is a treat for all the audience, like straight up. And like, we really appreciate your time. We know you're a busy person. Like,
I appreciate you bringing me on.
This is a fucking banger episode, bro. And like, thank you. And we'll have you back on, like, like in the near future, whatever. And I'm sure
there's a lot to dive into.
Oh, I know. I feel like we haven't even. I know.
I think literally out of like the 5 things we thought we'd talk about, we only really hatched into 2 of them. And it's good, right? Because I think a lot of people, I don't think they actually do see this side of you, right? Like, you're usually the happy-go-lucky, yeah. But also there is a business mind to it. There is a methodical brain behind everything that like goes through, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing the stories you have.
Is there any last things you would like to say to our audience before we wrap it up?
Put it out there.
Promote.
Don't be a bitch. Whatever you got, go out there. Let people know that you're doing it, and that's it. Like, that's all it's about.
Bang. That's it. All right. And for those of you who listened thus far, thank you so much. And you guys were in for a treat. And we'll see you next week. Peace.